Hey there, baseball fans and fans of the American League Central. My name is Seth Stoes of Twins Daily, and we're going to try a little something different tonight. As people are coming in, I'm going to introduce myself, and we'll just start talking about this. It should be a fun show, talking about an American League Central division race that should be really a lot of fun here over the next couple of weeks. About two and a half weeks left in the season, and the three teams in the division. The White Sox have a one-game lead over both Cleveland and Minnesota. Minnesota and Minnesota and Chicago do not play tonight, but Cleveland is playing right now, I believe, against the Royals. So we'll kind of try to keep tabs of that a little bit here. First thing I want to do is introduce our guests. Casey, I'll start with you real quick first. And you've writing about the future White Sox, but also you've been on a podcast here before. I'll let you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your website as well, which again is Future Sox. We'll pull that up here as well.
Yeah, sure. Casey Boguslaw at Casey Boguslaw on Twitter. Write for FutureSox.com, website that's focused on the farm system of all the affiliates of the Chicago White Sox. Obviously, a little bit of a weird year with not much minor league play going on, but there's been so much talk about the guys that have gone up and the guys that still may show their face, towards the end of the season and possibly playoffs. You never know what's going to happen, especially in this crazy COVID season that we're having. So yeah, but lots of great stuff. The writers there are awesome. Check it out, especially if you want to follow any of what's going on in the White Sox farm system.
And it's an impressive farm system, to be sure. With that, we'll send it over here to Gage. He writes at a site or does podcasts at a site called Everybody Hates Cleveland. And I thought Cleveland rocks. But Gage, tell us a little bit about your site and what you guys are doing.
Yeah, it's just three of us that run Everybody Hates Cleveland, and we just kind of like to talk about the biggest trends, not like Casey necessarily with the Future Sox, but we just talk about what's going on with the big league club and maybe into some close prospects from time to time. But I'll go back to Seth. You said we might need to check on the Indians. They're currently getting drubbed by the Royals 7-0, so they're about to fall out of that little one-game tie with the Twins in second place. But if you want to check out some Indians content, myself on Twitter, I'm at GageEHC, and the guys I write with, you'll see them pop up in my feed all the time too. We just like to talk about the numbers side of the game. Thanks, Steph.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a Twins fan, and I'm guessing as a White Sox fan, Casey, maybe you're just fine with Cleveland getting beaten bad by the Royals tonight. I'm good with it. I don't know. I mean, maybe the Twins fans listening. And for those of you, I'm from Twins Daily, formerly of SethSpeaks.net, a longtime blogger there. Consolidated our sites with Nick Nelson, Parker Hageman, and I'm sure everyone's heard of John Bonus, a.k.a. the Twins Geeks. So I'm excited about tonight. I think we've got a really exciting race. And, even if Cleveland loses tonight, we had 15 to 18 games left in the schedules for three pretty good teams. So we're going to talk about some topics. And again, we welcome everyone to please feel free to use the comments that are on Periscope and Twitter or on YouTube or on Facebook. We'll be able to see all of those and try to answer questions as we're able to. So feel free to do that. What I want to start out with is, again, what are the reasons? This is kind of the first ones. What are the reasons that your team you think is in the contention in this short season this late into the year? And I preface that by saying, I think the favorite going into the season was probably the Twins because they won it last year. But certainly Cleveland's got the pitching, and everyone talked about the offseason and the prospects of the White Sox. So I'll start with you, Gage, this time. Why is Cleveland in contention now, and why do you think they have a chance to win?
They have a chance to win because they know how to. They're a young pitcher factory, essentially. They just know how to take guys that are maybe a little bit marginalized by their prospect status and kind of hone in on traits to help them succeed at the big league level. Like, they just dealt Mike Clevenger, and they still have 5 exciting arms that they can run out there every night. And I mean, they've just injected Tristan McKenzie into the mix. highly regarded prospect before an injury last year, and he hasn't missed a beat. So they're in the hunt because they have the best pitcher in baseball right now, Shane Bieber, and then Aaron Savali, Zach Plesac, Carlos Carrasco, who's starting to turn a corner again and look like his self from a few years ago, and the young gun Tristan McKenzie.
So let's talk about that for a minute. The pitching factor that you talk about, and I know that one of the reasons I think the Twins hired Derek Falvey from the Cleveland organization was because of that pitching factory that you're talking about. And I know it's something that one of the Twins fans want, but obviously he wants as he develops and puts his stamp on the Twins organization. From a distance, Casey, what do you see with Cleveland's pitching staff? But secondly, what about that path that they've developed over this year? I mean, it's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously I think pretty clearly the best staff in all of baseball. I'd put them better than the Dodgers and the Reds right now, even after the Clevenger move, just because it's just been one guy after another, and it's the next man up. But it's insane how quickly these guys have they hit the stage running and are automatically a top of the rotation guy. And is White Sox fan that has, we've seen these prospects come up that, we're highly touted and have struggled. Of course, there's a little bit of jealousy there, what Cleveland's been able to do. And, their offense hasn't been great this season, but they're in every single game because their pitching staff not only is so strong, but they go very deep into games. I believe that they have the, the starting rotation that has gone deepest in the game just by like average innings pitched per game started. By quite a significant margin. This obviously was a very weird season with the second ramp up, and a lot of teams kind of took it a little bit easier on their starting pitching and at least kind of ramped up during the season once they got restarted. And the Indians really didn't do that. They were already throwing 8-9 innings with all of their guys, so that's just helped. They have a strong bullpen, but it's not taxed because of what they've been able to do all season. So they're just riding the pitching. They're going to try to win a bunch of games, 3-0, 2-0. Obviously not tonight, like Gage mentioned. And you buried the lead, Gage. I think it's still a no-hitter.
Yeah. Brady Singer is no-hitting the Indians.
We might be watching some history here live on this podcast. He's through 6 1/3. But no, I mean, yeah, this is kind of a fluke game. And I was joking with Gage yesterday that I bet the over on the Indians-Royals game, and he told me that I was an idiot for doing that because it's never a good bet because the Indians pitching is so good and they can't really hit. Why would I bet the over? But I did it and I lost, and Gage made fun of me for it.
I did want to inject when you talk about their starters going deep into games. I heard a stat on the radio as I was coming home earlier today. 30 of their 43 starts this year have been quality starts. In today's day and age of time, guys only going 2 times through the order, and almost 75% of their starts have been 6 innings and 3 runs or less, which is just bizarre.
Yeah,
I doubt the White Sox have 10, and they're probably almost all Giolito.
Yeah, I think Kenta Maeda probably has a couple, maybe Michael Pineda, and I think Barrios may have one. That's about it. So I know the Twins aren't getting a lot of length in their starting pitchers. I mentioned at the beginning of the season when we did our very first post-game pint, I believe the Twins just got dominated by Shane Bieber. I said that I would not want to play Cleveland in the playoffs because of their pitching, and I thought they had a chance to win the World Series. And, even like you said, after trading a guy of the talent of Clevenger, you still feel like pitching's a strength, which is a year ago they did the same with Bauer. It's just such an incredible factory. So, Casey, we'll go to you. The White Sox, I guess from a distance, my thought is, they did do a lot in the offseason. They brought in some veterans who have certainly been a positive influence. But those prospects not only have come up over the last season and a half, they've contributed right away, which as a Twins fan, we look at the struggles that Buxton and Sano and Kepler and Rosario and Polanco had at various times, in Barrios too in his first couple of years. It isn't that easy, and yet these guys are getting it done right away.
Yeah, the young guys have carried the team, for a lot of it, and they've been healthy and they've been productive. They've been in the lineup every day, which is not something that you see. Of course, I'm focusing on Robert. Madrigal did have the shoulder thing, but he's come back and he's been very productive. The dude just rips singles all over the place. It's kind of crazy how good of a hitter he is right off the bat. And then of course Robert's been almost a consensus, a rookie of the year. And Kyle Lewis has given him a little bit of a fight, but he's been great from the beginning. And you mentioned, when you brought up to Gage, just kind of why the White Sox are in the position that they're in right now. And I'm not even saying this to downplay what they've done, but they've beat the poor on their schedule. They went 9-1 against the Royals. They're done with the Royals this season. Unfortunately for the White Sox, but going 9-1 against that team, Tigers, I want to say it's something just as impressive. I don't remember. It's like 6-1 or something like that. And then Pirates, they beat 3 out of 4. So they have beat. You can only play the teams on your schedule, but we're watching the Royals take care of the Indians right now, and the White Sox just had. They took the quote unquote easy games on the schedule, and they've actually won them. They've had troubles against the Twins, had trouble against the Indians, but they've just racked up wins against these, the poorer teams in their schedule, and that's been their recipe for getting it done. Why they're sitting in first place right now.
Absolutely. Now, I looked at it earlier coming into the day. The White Sox lead these 3 teams, just comparing these 3 teams, with 5.3 runs scored per game. The Twins at 4.5, Cleveland at 4.1. Runs against, Chicago's given up 4, Twins 3.6, Cleveland 3.0. Gage, as you look at the White Sox, what has stood out to you over the course of 45 games, which is 75% of a season?
Just how well all the young guys have hit. I was a little skeptical on. I love Robert, and I think Moncada's a great player. I was just a little skeptical about whether those guys would hit right away. I mean, Moncada's obviously in year 3 or so now, but Robert's just come up and made an immediate impact. Their free agent signings, and the one thing that kind of am most blown away by is how good Dallas Keuchel's pitched for them and how big that free agent signing was. It's really stabilized. Beyond Giolito offered a second arm to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Now, Keuchel, of course, did just go on the disabled list, or injured list, I'm sorry, with some back spasms. I assume that's not the type of injury that should be, hopefully from a White Sox perspective, more than 10 days. Is that fair, Casey?
Yeah, that's kind of what's going on right now. They said he was, they scratched him from his start on Saturday where he was supposed to start against the Tigers, and then they basically just put him on the injured list just to kind of get an arm up. Ronaldo Lopez is coming back up. I don't know if he's going to take that start Saturday. He might. And then he is supposed to start, Keuchel, that is supposed to be back for the Twin Series that's upcoming. That is at least the plan that Ricky Renteria has laid out so far.
Okay. So I guess as the Twins go, I mean, I really felt at the beginning of the season, and we maybe all feel this way about our team, so to speak. I thought this team at the beginning of the year was the most talented. And so I feel like that is the reason that they should have a chance. They had an offense last year that was incredible, and they added Josh Donaldson to it. And while they didn't get an ace like Garrett Cole or anyone like that, obviously, adding Kenta Maeda has been a huge lift. The idea of Rich Hill, which hasn't really happened to this point, is a good thing. Barrios struggled early. So to me, I feel like this is a team that does have the talent to and should maybe be leading the division. They're on a 97-win pace, so it's not like they're really playing terrible in this short season. But I still feel like now that they've got Donaldson back, Buxton's back, hopefully Kepler will be back here in the next few days. I feel like that lineup should start producing, which it just has not been able to do consistently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn to kind of the next question of what is the thing with your team. And before I do that, I want to, again, encourage people, if you've got questions on whether you're watching on Facebook Live or Twitter, we will see your questions if you ask them. So feel free to do that as we get going here. The next thing was, what are the issues that kind of make your team more of a question mark over these last couple of weeks? What would it be that would maybe keep them from winning the division? And for me, as a Twins person, that's injuries. And, I mentioned Kepler's hopefully going to come back. Mitch Garver's been out for a month. Alex Avila, the backup catcher, has been out now for a week. They're going with their third and fourth catchers, and Ryan Jeffers has certainly been just fine, but, you're not your top guys. Homer Bailey is out basically for the year. Pineda had the suspension. He just came back. Odorizzi has just had this, awful year in terms of injuries. So to me, keeping Donaldson healthy, keeping Buxton healthy, getting Garver back, keeping them all healthy, to me, that is the thing that will hopefully keep them ahead of the game or give them a chance, especially as the playoffs roll around. But that is also the thing that scares me the most about this Twins team, is they just have not had any consistency because of injuries. And I think that's the thing that, in my mind, keeps them from being the team to necessarily beat down the stretch. And I feel like and it's Rocco, it's the whole team kind of just knows they're in the playoffs. So we're going to make sure these guys get back and are healthy at that time, which is the great strategy. But I don't know if that plays real well. Gage, I'll go to you this time. Your thoughts as you look at the Twins from the distance. Again, this year we're still going to see each other all 10 times, but it's not quite like a normal year. So what are your thoughts on the Twins, what you've seen this year?
I've been blown away with how well Sano continues to rebound, and Buxton is just even if he hasn't ripped the cover off the ball necessarily, I haven't kept up with him that closely, but those guys that produced last year that were kind of late, like you mentioned earlier, Seth, were kind of late bloomers, even though they were big prospects. They just took a couple of years of scuffling. Those guys just continue to produce. And I was kind of skeptical on how deep the lineup would be. I mean, even though I know they added Donaldson, but maybe I thought a couple of those guys were maybe seeing some regression, like a Rosario or Garver. And I know Garver struggled, but the Twins offense is still, without Josh Donaldson, has been pretty good. And not to mention how good Kenta Maeda's pitched. Like you said about Derek Falvey, they're really building something there. And you can kind of tell when guys like Dobnak and Smeltzer get in there and give you serviceable times. That they're not the most highly regarded guys either. But that's kind of what the Indians have done. They've taken those marginal chips and just turned them into production at the big league level. And so for me, you can just see the player development seismic shift in Minnesota, and that's scary for the Central moving forward.
Sure. How about you, Casey? Your thoughts on the Twins, what you've seen to this point in the season, and surprises or that kind of thing?
Yeah, I've been surprised, of course, by their struggles with the Tigers. I guess I'll start right there. That they just haven't been as powerful. I kind of expected them, even in a 60-game season, and you never really know what you can do with that small samples. I thought they would run away with the division, like you mentioned. The fact that they had the injuries and it's kind of let the other teams get back in the pack, and why we have a 3-way race here for the last couple of weeks. The struggles against left-handed pitching is very shocking just because of how good they were against left-handed pitching last season. And Josh Donaldson being out has something to do with that, not being in the lineup, but of course he wasn't in the lineup last year. That contributed to that, that offense that was so good against left-handed pitching. But the starting pitching is kind of where I saw a weakness, because I wasn't sure exactly how Maeda would come over and translate, just because the Dodgers kind of used him as a very flexible guy in the playoffs and during the regular season, having him come out of the pen. So I didn't know, just how well he would be going to go back to a 6-7 inning per start guy, and he has done great. And so that has really kind of stabilized their rotation. And we obviously talked a bunch about the Indians rotation, but the Twins rotation has been very good, as has the White Sox. All these three of these teams have just pitched very well for the most part. Obviously the White Sox buoyed a little bit more about their top two guys, but this has been a very strong pitching race, and this is why these three teams, and throw the Rays and the A's, but are very strong contenders in the American League. And they've all taken their warts. They all have flaws, but so does every team in the American League. I guess I just there's been surprises all over the league, and I would say with the Twins, I think my biggest surprise is that they're not a few more games ahead of both the Indians and the White Sox.
I could echo that too.
Yeah, I think the 5-5 against the Tigers and 5-5 against the Royals, I think really hurts because those are teams that are improved, and I think they have talent. I mean, even the Royals, they have Soler and Merrifield, and Singer is going to be good. And man, I did an article this week on the rest of the division and some of the pitchers that are coming beyond Tarek Skubal and Casey Mize and Brady Singer and Tristan McKenzie, and it just keeps going. So I do want to welcome questions, comments again, and with that, I'm going to go to you, Gage. We got a question from Steve Pincus that says, Cleveland, are they better or worse after the Clevenger trade? What has the fan reaction been to that deal?
So the fan reaction is it's kind of become the norm in Cleveland, trading away frontline starters. We've seen over the last 12, 13 years, the Indians have seen CC Sabathia, Cliff Lee, Corey Kluber, Trevor Bauer, all those guys dealt. So I honestly think the fans are kind of more used to it. But the fan reaction on that specific one was very mixed because not a lot of people are high on Josh Naylor, that they got from the Padres, the outfielder. And I would say that I don't think they're any worse or any better after the Clevenger trade this year. I think Naylor improves the offense a little bit, and any losses to the pitching staff are covered by Tristan McKenzie's gains. And so it was more of a long-term move with the Indians saying, hey, maybe we can upgrade an outfield spot, lose a little bit of our pitching depth, but improve our outfield outlook over the next 5-6 years as well.
So, Gage, let me follow up then by giving you the question that I kind of answered about the Twins, kind of leading to this second question is, if Cleveland is going to fade or fall back, and I think all three teams are making the playoffs. We probably all agree with that. If they're going to fall into the third place one, which would, of course, be a 7 or 8 seed in the playoffs, what is the concern? What would that reasoning be?
The concern is getting no hit through 7 innings by a rookie that spent 1 year in the minor leagues. And to go into greater detail there, you got Jose Ramirez, who's been playing with a bruised thumb all year, and he's missing time this week, tonight specifically. Delino DeShields, as Tim jumps on and says here in the comments, Delino DeShields is starting in center field every night, and I'm guessing the Rangers couldn't wait to unload him as part of that package with him in exchange for Kluber. And if Ramirez isn't fully healthy or Delino DeShields continues to play every day in center field, or Josh Naylor and Tyler Naquin don't be at least average hitters, there's no way for this team to hit enough in a playoff series, even with the loaded pitching. So they've assembled this stars and scrubs team, and they need the stars to hit, and they need 1 or 2 of those scrubs to come in and be serviceable, and that just hasn't happened of late for them.
Yeah, and as you can see here, there's the Cleveland lineup, and you notice the hit column, which is 0. And again, Brady Singer is exciting. He's got some serious talent.
Yeah.
But, at the same time, he's got, 6-7 starts in his big league career. And, so I guess you mentioned Ramirez isn't playing. Freeman, I don't think, is scaring anyone. Lindor and Santana are legit. Reyes has had a really nice year, but
yeah,
like you said, there's 3 guys, and that's about it.
So they need somebody from like that Naquin, Naylor group to be a serviceable hitter. Naquin has been to this point this year, but he's slowing down of late. And you mentioned Mike Freeman. He's a 33-year-old journeyman infielder that has a career slugging or career ISO of 100. There's just not going to be a whole lot of intrigue there, and you got Sandy Alomar hitting him second. So there's real concern with this Indians lineup not being good enough to, even with elite pitching.
All right, let's turn it over to you, Casey. What are your concerns about the White Sox? If what is the one thing that kind of alarms you and thinks they could step back? But before you answer that, we have a very important question in the comments here, which I believe comes from Facebook Live. Casey, what are you drinking?
I am drinking some Space Dust IPA by Elysian. Very good stuff. As far as concerns with the White Sox, we mentioned the Keuchel IL stint. I don't think it's a big deal. Hopefully, I mean that would just be a huge blow. I'll focus on a couple things right now. It is kind of who's going to be that third guy in the rotation because, like we mentioned, let's go on and say that all three of these teams are in the playoffs. Seeding, I don't really know. I've kind of thought about this over and over again. How concerned are any of us? And maybe we can pass that question around about seeding, about winning the division. Yeah, it'll be nice to throw a pennant up, next season. But as far as like seeding the playoffs, especially with that first series being a 3-game set, the American League is very, very strong. I just tweeted out before the show that the reward for winning the division right now would be either facing the Twins, the Astros, or the Yankees. 3 teams that we thought were going to win those 3 divisions this season are now the 6, 7, and 8 seed. So that's interesting. So I'll go off of that. I think that obviously looking at the playoffs, looking at that first series, that 3-game set. Who is going to be that number 3 starter for the White Sox? We know that what Giolito and Keuchel have done. Obviously, they've been exceptional. They will be in the first 2 games of any series with those 2 if they can get the rotation set up. That's another thing. It's like, should they just set the rotation up for those first games of the playoffs, regardless of what seeding it is, just because of who knows or really doesn't matter which team are you going to play in that first round. So it's who's going to be that third guy. Right now, Dylan Cease was supposed to be the guy, has been the third guy in the rotation, has not really had a great season, up and down, can't go deep into ball games. Do you really want that in a playoff spot, especially if that series is 1-1? Dane Dunning, though, has been the kind of surprise guy that came up this season, pitched exceptional last night against the Pirates. So take that as you will. He no-hit the Royals for 5 innings in his second career start. So take that for what you will. But if Dane Dunning could be that guy, and maybe it is even some sort of tandem thing that will get them through, even going past that first 3-game set, if they are to advance, going into a 5-game or a 7-game set, if Dane Dunning is able to take that leap, or Dylan Cease is kind of hopefully able to match that second round pedigree, that's the concern for the White Sox. And I think if they do have an early exit in the playoffs, it'll be because they don't really have a third guy in the rotation right now.
Definitely a concern. As you talked about that, I mentioned earlier that I had written earlier this week about the pitching in the AL Central and what's coming. And I just wanted to go to Twins Daily. I wrote a pitching rich AL Central. And I just want to get your thoughts on what I've got. With the Twins, they've got, my idea was players that are at least scheduled to be on the roster next year. So for the Twins, I didn't include Rich Hill or Jake Odorizzi. They'll be free agents. But, you got Maeda, Barrios, Pineda. You've got some other younger guys like Dobnik, Smeltzer, and Thorpe. Dobnik's taken a big step this year. Thorpe and Smeltzer kind of tailed off. And then you've got prospects like Joan Duran and Dakota Chalmers that are on the 40-man roster. Jordan Balazovic, who was just added to the 60-player pool in St. Paul. Wanted to go through your 2 rosters and get your thoughts on this. Again, I'll start with Gage here. I've got Cleveland next, and I should probably make this bigger so you guys can actually see what we're looking at here. Obviously, the veterans in this case are Bieber and Carrasco, and I don't think it gets much better than that. I've got the newbies, which is kind of that first or second year type of player, Savali and Plesac, who have both been very good in opportunities. Plutko is more struggled, but been given opportunities. And then you've got not only Tristan McKenzie, but James Karinchak up already. And am I missing anyone in that list?
The currently suspended Emmanuel Clase, who is a mile-per-hour reliever that should be part of a very dangerous bullpen tandem this year, but he's suspended for performance-enhancing drugs.
He came over in the Kluber deal, right?
Yeah, he was why he was the target in that deal. The Indians wanted Clase, and I know that they were talking with the Angels about different Kluber deals, but they settled on Clase, and it was a big blow to their bullpen this year in February when that news leaked that he was going to be suspended for the year. And then even beyond that, the Indians have some interesting arms on the 40-man still, like a Logan Allen, who was once a premier prospect in San Diego, lefty starter. He's only 24. I think. No, he's 23, actually. Sorry about that. And then Sam Henkes, another 24-year-old or so, who
from Minnesota
can light. Yeah, he's a lefty, lights up 99-ish on the radar gun. There is more pitching coming to Cleveland, even beyond those guys at in the lower levels too. It seems like they got the machine humming there.
No, that's fantastic. I did actually mention Sam Henkes from Mounds View High School for those of you watching through Twins Daily and Twins fans. Real quick, I want to go through the White Sox here, Casey. Again, you're going to know more of the prospects, but I put the veterans, and it's hard to believe Lucas Giolito is already a veteran, but I know all-star appearance and several years of struggling before becoming really good the last couple of years. Keuchel, we all know what he can do. I put Lopez in that category because he's been around a while. It hasn't clicked for him yet. I made the comment in one of his last starts against the Twins that I would just love to see what Twins pitching coach Wes Johnson could do with him because he's had so many successes, and I think that Lopez has such good stuff. The newbies, I put Dylan Cease. He kind of falls into that, and after really struggling a year ago, he's been pretty good this year. And then I've got Kopech, who, of course, is opting out this year. I put Dane Dunning in there, who has now arrived. And I put Garrett Crochet just because I figure he's a top 5 pick who out of college. He could probably move fairly quick. Who are we missing there?
Jonathan Stewart's the big name that is kind of the next man up after Dunning. It's possible that they could see him this season. I think it would be kind of something drastic would have to happen. Stever was kind of thrown around in some of the trades at the deadline. The rumors, the White Sox were, if they were, going to get a Lance Lynn or something like that, Stever was going to be somebody that was probably going to be involved, and so is Dane Dunning. And I think that was a big reason why the White Sox said no to bringing in a Lance Lynn or a Brandon Woodruff, who were the two top guys that were rumored over to the White Sox. And the other person that you're missing on this list that I have an article coming out here this week on is Carlos Rodon, and what will the White Sox do with him? So, he was on his way back. He was looking to come back from Schaumburg. He's been fighting a shoulder thing since early on this season. And then his back started flaring up as well, just like Keuchel, but it's not the shoulder. The shoulder's fine. Now it's the back. And my article is going to focus on kind of what could his role be. Obviously, Carlos Rodon has had success as a starter, but he's a left-handed pitcher that has a nasty slider that I could foresee being a really useful asset out of the pen. Aaron Bummer is a guy that is a big question mark right now with the White Sox because he was the best reliever on the team last season, and he's been injured pretty much for the majority of this season. He just got placed on the 45-day, which still will leave him eligible to return, I think, about the last week of the season and, of course, the playoffs. But if the White Sox don't have that fireman, left-handed Aaron Bummer, could Carlos Rodon fill that role? Not necessarily going in the rotation, but just being an asset in that pen. I think that's a big thing. And of course, he's got a couple more years left on his contract as well. So not only is the short-term concern for him there, but, what they want to do with him for the long term as well.
Very good point. I now feel bad about showing you guys this article because missing a guy like Rodon is pretty inexcusable. So thank you. And the reason I wrote this article too was, you look at the Tigers, not only that Boyd and Fulmer who's just coming back, but Mize, Skubal, Tyler Alexander, Matt Manning, Faedo, Logan Shore. I mean, they just have a list of guys that they've drafted in recent years. And we talked about the Royals, not only Singer and Chris Bubich, but they just took Asa Lacy high in the first round. They've got Daniel Lynch, Jackson Cowler, and both of those guys are at AA or higher. And, seeing what Josh Stamont has done this year out of their bullpen, throwing 100 all year, the division is not going to get easier as we go forward. So looked at this Twins window, the Cleveland window. the White Sox, we thought maybe their window might start next year. It's starting now. Detroit may not be all that far away either. And with some of these arms, the Royals could be competitive within, say, 2 years too. So I'm pretty excited about what this division could be over time. So with that, we got about 5 more minutes here, and I want to just get real quickly your thoughts on, and I know we talked about maybe doing this in a different format. I want to start with Gage on this one and just say the 2 questions here. One, which team do you fear most? This question came from Casey. I fully admit we got to give him credit for this. Which of these 3 teams do you fear most as it relates to winning the division? And secondly, as it relates to who you'd least like to play in the playoffs of this group?
I would say that from an Indians perspective, as far as winning the division, I fear the White Sox the most because I know it's only a game, but there's only 15 to 18 left, and the Indians have the White Sox 4 more times. I very much fear the White Sox running away with that division just with how well they've been hitting and Giolito pitching here and then, or pitching every 5 days. But in the playoffs, I would have to say that the Twins would intimidate me more, just from a perspective of how deep that lineup is and how well the pitchers have performed. I'm blown away by the Twins being a top 7, 8 pitching team. That might be even, I haven't looked at it too closely, but I know they're in that top quadrant. So, and like Casey said, what do the White Sox do in that game 3, or where does it go after Giolito and Keuchel? I would definitely fear the Twins more in a playoff series, but I think the White Sox are in the best position to win the division right now.
Casey, let me ask you that same question.
Yeah, I guess, with how close the teams are, and yeah, like Gage mentioned, there's only so few games left. You got to kind of look at the schedule and see if just kind of what wins you can pencil in. Obviously, that hasn't really been, what has happened is, I mentioned what the White Sox have done against the bottom feeders, but it hasn't really much happened with your two guys' teams. But the Indians do have the weakest strength of schedule remaining. They play the Tigers and they play the Pirates still. They finished the season with that weekend series at home against the Pirates, which the Pirates are, I think, probably the worst team in MLB right now. It'll be really interesting if it comes down to that. The White Sox have to play the Cubs, the cross city rivals, which obviously just takes a huge it's a huge emotional thing for all the players that are involved in that, and it's going to be really interesting. I guess the one thing that could happen for the White Sox is that the Cubs might be sitting there, might not have to face a Yu Darvish because the Cubs might rest him. So maybe that is a nothing series. Obviously, it's still going to have the emotional stuff, but maybe it's just a little bit less as far as the Cubs won't be fighting for anything. So I'll say the Indians are my biggest fear for winning the division. And as far as a playoff series, I fear the Twins just because the Twins have had the White Sox number for a couple years. Really, it's been longer than that. Not to sit back on the couch here, but the Twins have just had the White Sox number for many years in my book. They've always been the villain in my nightmares, and this season's been no different. It's just Nelson Cruz when he comes up. I just fear he's going to hit a 3-run homer, even if there's nobody on base. So I really worry about that lineup, especially against a Dylan Cease or Ronaldo Lopez, these fly ball guys that the Twins just have feasted on for a couple of years here. And facing them in a three game or a 5 game or a 7 game, I would just really worry about the back end of this rotation going through that lineup multiple times.
And I guess my short answer on this one would be that for the division, I do think that I would put the White Sox as the team that I would fear or think that has the best chance to win the division. But I, in a playoff series, would not want to have to go against Shane Bieber in a 3-game series or in a 5-game series to have to see him twice. So for me, it's Cleveland in a playoff series. Gage, you have some breaking news here?
Yeah, noted great hitter Austin Hedges has just broken up the Brady Singer no hit bid in the 8th inning. So the Indians will only get embarrassed by the Royals tonight instead of
Really embarrassed?
instead of truly
It won't be
really
yeah,
embarrassed. I don't.
it won't be the top story on MLB Network tonight.
Yeah.
It'll be the top story in Cleveland baseball Twitter.
And I believe that was Hedges' first hit in a
As an
Cleveland
Indian.
uniform, right? And of
Yeah,
course,
There you go.
Twins fans, a little bit of fun trivia. Austin Hedges went to the same high school, J. Sarah High School, as Twins top prospect Royce Lewis. I know, I'm just that cool. So yeah, I think we all answered that one. Really quickly, I want to kind of go through the playoffs or the remaining schedule. Let's start with the White Sox. I look at this. You've got, I think, a huge series. You know what? I'm actually going to start with the Twins here. I think this division, we may know a ton more in a week. And I say that because starting Friday night, there's a 3-game series at Target Field between Minnesota and Cleveland. And then Minnesota goes and plays 4 games at Chicago. I mean, there's 7 games against the teams that Minnesota's competing with right there. Of course, then staying in Chicago for 3 more days to play the Cubs, but then to go play 2 more against Detroit, and then 3 to end the season against Cincinnati. The nice thing is they did have the 2 off days here because they were not up and let the Cardinals play a doubleheader so that they could play another doubleheader today to try to make up their games. They also have day off on the 21st, day off on the 24th. I think that's got some value, even though it probably hurt them when they were originally scheduled to play 36 games in 37 days. So that, to me, is a tough schedule. Let's take it to the White Sox. Casey, add your thoughts here on the White Sox remaining schedule.
Yeah, no off days, as you noticed. So right now the White Sox have no idea who their 5th starter is, and they will need their 5th starter a couple times. So I don't know what they're going to do with as far as bullpen days. I mean, thank God for the 28-man rosters, so they can kind of just, maybe be really flexible on who they call up from Schaumburg and maybe have some bullpen days in there. But the Reds are feisty, have a great pitching staff. They have the Tigers this weekend. You mentioned, 4 games against the Twins, 4 games of the Indians. Those are the 2 big series, and then we'll see what happens with that last series against the Cubs. When that schedule came out, I remember just kind of hoping that the sports fan in me really was desiring that the Cubs and White Sox would really need that last series, for some awesome playoff seedings and just kind of have an extra playoff series in there. The Cubs are kind of running away with the Central, so I don't know if that'll happen, but still, they'll need it for seeding wise. Again, I'm not sure how important that'll be. I'll be very, very interested to see what the team decides to do with the Lucas Giolito. Will he pitch in that last series? If regardless of what's at stake, because they're going to need him on that 29th on that first the day the playoff starts. No doubt about it. They will want Lucas Giolito to start that first game of that 3-game series.
For sure. Noticing the comparison, the Twins and White Sox both play 3 against the Reds and 3 against the Cubs. And so let's jump, Gage, your thoughts on the remainder of the Cleveland schedule. They are playing today, unlike both the White Sox and the Twins. They do have 1 off day next Monday. They also play 2 against the Cubs, but instead of the Reds, they get 3 against the Pirates. So any further thoughts on the remainder of the Cleveland schedule?
There's 7 of those remaining games against, like you said, the Twins and White Sox, and I would say the Indians have been played really against both of those teams in the past. Since the beginning of last year, it's been really close. The Twins have won 13 and the Indians have won 13. I think against the White Sox, the Indians have won 13 and the White Sox have won 12. So it's a coin flip in both of those series essentially. And I'm really wondering what to expect from the Tigers, because they seem like they're starting to fade off a little bit. So the Indians might be getting them at a good time next weekend, where they're just kind of in that last 10 days and their playoff hopes are kind of dwindling. So, and then finishing with the Pirates, that's like Casey said before, they're hardly a major league ball club at this point. They don't have really anything that exciting on the roster. Even there's a few position players here and there, but you got to wonder how committed they're going to be in that last 3-game set too. So I think the back end of the schedule shapes up well for the Indians if they can win more than half the games against the Twins and White Sox.
Yeah, and again, the last 7 games at home after I think we talked about here already, 8 of the next 9 days on the road, something like that. It's been a weird schedule. Last question, and then we'll let you guys go unless anyone's got any last-second questions, whether you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, Periscope, or YouTube. I feel like it's going to be fun. It's going to be. We knew that this would be a sprint instead of a marathon, the way a normal 162 is. I feel in some ways like we're being we're losing out on what would be really exciting if they won. Thinking there's only 15, 17, 18 games left. 2, what if they wouldn't have expanded the playoffs, 8 teams in each division? That would mean that at least one of these 2 teams would not be in the playoffs. I feel like we've lost out on something, but at the same time, how do you guys feel about this season? How do you feel about specifically the playoff situation and how important seeding is? I can't remember which one of you said it earlier. The fact is winning the division means you either get to play the Yankees or Astros probably. So what does that mean for seeding? Let's start with you, Gage.
I have been of the opinion that, division titles are nice, but I think the bigger concern for all 3 of the clubs should be how do we align ourselves the best for that first 3-game series, because it'd be a miracle if one of the 3 didn't make it at this point. And like you said, Yankees, Astros, no matter how they've played to this point, it's just not a team you really want to see in a 3-game series. There's a reason they were expected to be so good. Whereas you have the Jays, if they fall behind the Yankees or anything like that, they're young and fun. But for me, I would just much rather see a team like the Jays in the playoffs than the Yankees or Astros.
Casey, your thoughts on how this plays out and how important seeding is to the White Sox in this case?
Yeah, I think especially in comparison to your 2 teams, it's just so important to get Giolito and Keuchel to pitch as many games as possible, just because of the concern that I brought up the back end of that rotation. I don't think you guys necessarily have that concern. Obviously, it's going to be great to have Bieber pitch as much as possible. And for the Twins, their rotation's deep and their rotation's pretty strong across the board. So, maybe there is a little bit of a different strategy that these teams are going to bring to these last couple of weeks of the season. If it was me, yeah, the pennant will be nice, but I think that with how this season's gone, with the Astros really struggling for whatever reason, obviously, Altuve having a really bad season, Verlander being hurt, Yankees just having all kinds of injuries. This is wide open. The American League is absolutely wide open, and I think that all 3 of these teams should be trying to win a World Series this year because the window is wide open. Get there versus the Dodgers, and then anything can happen in a best of 7. But in my opinion, it's getting, that 3-game series is just anything can happen. But you got to put yourself in the best position possible, especially if you're the White Sox. That means Lucas Giolito on game 1. That's all I'm concerned with right now. I don't really care who we're playing in that 3-game series.
Yeah, and I tend to agree. Like you both have said, it'd be great to win the division. It looks good as a banner flying around in the stadium, but I feel like one thing that maybe Twins fans should maybe think about a little bit or appreciate is these 2 off days, plus having 2 more off days. They could have spent the last 2 days trying to map out the rest of their season to have it set up for a 3-game playoff coming right after the year, and maybe think through how that rotation is going to work when you got Maeda and Pineda and Barrios probably as your top 3, with Randy Dobnak, who's been fantastic in his rookie season. Also having Rich Hill and probably Jake Odorizzi coming back. And then the bullpen with Jorge Alcala being added to the Taylor Rogers, Tyler Duffy, Tyler Clippard, Sergio Romo group, but that's Cody Stashak is now back in. They're going to have some tough decisions for a playoff roster. So I kind of wonder how they're going to use all these off days to set that up. Because I feel good about the Twins' chances in the playoffs, but both of your teams, the Cleveland and Chicago, are teams that I would also not feel real comfortable going into any series, 3-game, 5-game, 7-game series with. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And with that, I want to thank both of you. And first of all, I want to encourage everyone to go to Future Sox, follow Casey on Twitter, on our Twins Daily Twitter page. We've got his link, but check him out on Twitter, but also check out Future Sox. Thank you very much, Casey, for again being on. Gage, nice talking to you tonight, getting to know you here a little bit. And be sure to check out Everyone Hates Cleveland, and his Twitter is @Gage EHC. So be sure to check that out. Gage, thank you so much again as well. And again, my name is Seth Stos of Twins Daily. You can find this. We were live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can watch it again on all of those platforms, plus Twins Daily has it, and you can go to the Twins Daily podcast, which you can find anywhere where you find podcasts, whether it's iTunes or anywhere else. So with that, guys, I'll give you each 30, 45 seconds to give your final thoughts. Gage, any other things you got going on?
No, just very relieved that Brady Singer didn't no-hit the Indians tonight. That was the level of shame I didn't want to deal with.
Casey?
I'll mention Jose Abreu having, I think, an MVP caliber season and a 21 game hitting streak right now. 22 game hitting streak, I believe, as of yesterday. 22 game hitting streak for that guy. He got a qualifying offer, he accepted it, and then they got the extension. How great has Jose Abreu been this season?
Yeah, and I'll kind of go along those same lines with my final thought here. Nelson Cruz, probably an MVP candidate as well. And it's been pointed out on other podcasts and other Twin sites. We've got it here at Twins Daily. He's now played 162 games for the Twins. He's hit 56 home runs, 18, driven in 139 with a 402 on base and a 650 slugging percentage. So we really like that from a 40-year-old, and hopefully the rest of the group will be able to follow suit as well. So again, thank you both. Appreciate you guys doing this. Hopefully we gave you enough time to give your team's perspective. Also want to thank everyone for listening tonight. Any feedback would be welcome. Please feel free to message any of us, and maybe we can do this again another week or 10 days and see where things are, and maybe even throughout the offseason. So thank you guys very much. Have yourselves a great night, and let's enjoy these last couple weeks.
Thanks, Seth.
Thanks, guys.